Hello, everybody. Welcome to another beautiful day with us on Live with Lloyd. I am your host, astronumerologist Lloyd Strayhorn. As you see, we have a beautiful guest coming up. She is no stranger to the Live with Lloyd format. This time, though, it's not about readings, okay? It's totally different. And the reason why is so many people have asked me they want to write a book, and how can I write a book? And I want to write a story about my life and everything like that. But there's actually an art to writing. All right, and you would be very much surprised how much there is to writing. So before we do that, let me take this off and say hi to everybody. All righty. I'm very glad to join you. Uh, I love what I do now. At first, when I started this, I said, nah, about 15 minutes, and I'll be spilling overtime. But I really enjoy it. And thank you very much for sharing and caring. But before we start with the guests, I want to let you know that this edition of Live with Lloyd is brought to you and sponsored by stshealing.com, or the Sisters of the Traveling Spread, which will be featuring a wonderful, very informative and insightful event on the weekend of August the 17th through the 20th in New Orleans, okay? The somewhat mystical, spiritual city, and rice and beans and all that other stuff that they talk about there. So it'll be a nice experience, and you will have the pleasure of meeting Nina Diamond, Aquarius Maximus, my guest, of course, Jazz Aphrodite, my crazy brother that I had on Monday, King Simon, and myself, of course. We will all be there. And before we start with my special guest, I want to let you know what the forecast is for today. And I think I got everything right this time. Please like, share, and subscribe. I will never send you a DM with a message or ask you for money. Never. I don't roll like that. But today is Wednesday, June the 7th. The sun is in Gemini. The moon is in Aquarius. It's a 4 universal month, a 5 universal week, an 11 universal day. And those under the signs of Leo, Aquarius, or Cancer, or if they're born on the 2nd, the 7th, the 11th, the 16th, the 20th, like my guest, the 25th, and the 29th, guess what? This should be a very important day for you, one way or the other. So now, without further ado, I'm going to bring on my very special guest, Jacquii Leviene, or Jazz Aphrodite. How you doing, Jazz?
I am well, Lloyd. Thank you for having me on tonight. Very grateful to be here with you again.
Yeah, this is always fun when we're on, and you're always so gorgeous. I mean, I'm
Thank
just
you.
you
Thank
anyway.
you. You
I'll
know, I
just
have to doll myself up for you.
thank you. Question: people know you as an astronumerologist, a teacher, and whatnot, but you also are working on a very unique project called the
Mhm.
Writers Workshop. I believe it's actually it's the Writers Complete Writers Essential Series.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So, welcome everyone. So, like you said, we're always telling people in our readings that you have the writer's numbers, you should write a book.
Yeah.
And we make the misconception that people understand how to even begin writing a book. And so, as somebody who is an ace of diamonds, I have the three of clubs and Mars. And so, the three of clubs is the writer's card. And I did not understand until recently that most of my promotions at work came from my writing. Things that I wrote as far as curriculum, policy, grants. I was always able to get promoted because of my writing. And so, when people told me that my writing was my gift, I took it for granted because when you're in your Mars period, you just figure it's grind, it's work. You just put passion in, you just doing the work. You don't
Mhm.
realize that the work is actually the gift that's allowing you to be able to do the work that you're doing. So the Writer's Essential Workshop is pretty much like a 4-month workshop. You don't have to take all 4 classes, but it starts with the writer's workout. In fact, let me bring up the presentation so people could see. If you don't mind, we could share it now.
Okay, we will do just that. There it is, and I'm going to put it on
Oh,
full blast where people can see it.
hey. So the Complete Writer's Essential series, the first class starts June 14th. That's next week. And this 7-week writer's workout is going to teach you how to go through different genres of writing. So, writing poetry, writing prose, writing fables, writing song lyrics, writing essays. understanding how to use descriptive language. We're going to go through grammar, syntax, and structure because a lot of people of color, particularly those of us who have self published books, get a bad rap because they figure that our books are not well written. And so we are going to go through the rooter and the tutor when it comes to knowing how to structure your writing, but also pay attention to punctuation. That was one of the things that I was very lax on with my book, my memoir, punctuation. Then we're going to learn how to do the sequencing and figurative language, as well as finding our authentic writing style and narrating with our written words. We don't understand that part of being a writer is knowing how to read and knowing how to read out loud. And that is a skill unto itself because you're going to have to read your book at least 5 times, at least minimum. It's going to be more than that. But before you even get to publishing, you're going to have to read your book to yourself out loud, all 300 pages, if you've written 300 pages, to catch errors. Then after that class, we have MS Word for bookworms. So learning how to format your manuscript or completed book in Microsoft Word. Some people will choose to use Adobe InDesign, but Microsoft Word, everybody has it. It's easier to use. And I always use it to format all of my books, even the second one, Numbers Decoded, Cards Unfolded. And then we're also going to go through shortcuts to make your work seamless, quick styles for formatting, using the contextual menus in Microsoft Word, and going through the industry standards for submission, because there's different standards when you're going to submit it to be traditionally published versus when you're self-publishing. And so knowing the difference between the two and making sure that it is properly formatted, especially if you're going through the traditionally published route. Then I'm going to go through PowerPoint because a lot of people love my PowerPoint presentations and they're like, oh, if only I knew how to do that. So I'm going to teach you how to create dynamic presentations because my second book was done in both Microsoft Word and in PowerPoint. Knowing how to use smart art, how to use the space. You got to think of your PowerPoint slide like a canvas that you're painting on, and all of the different elements that go onto the slide, how you want to shape it, use that space to create something that people can look at and immediately get without having to use a lot of words. Then how to animate and use transitions like I'm doing now, and then how to present like a pro. And then the last one is going through the book publishing process for pros. And so this is going to go through both preparing your book for publishing first, selecting publishing companies, especially if you're self-publishing, how to copyright your work with the Library of Congress, because that is a huge step that must be taken for all of the books that you publish. How to write a query letter, which I will say, as somebody who is a seasoned writer, is one of the hardest things to write, a query letter. And then finding an agent, which is almost damn near impossible. And then navigating the publishing world, especially if you're going to do it with a published, a published company, a publishing company. That is a process. And Lloyd, you've gone through that process, but I don't think it was as difficult as it is now.
No, when I went through, it was a little bit more complicated, definitely more costly. And
Mm,
you're right, no matter how many times you read your book, just recently my book was published in 80, revised in 87 and 97, and I caught an error just the other day.
exactly.
So, it's never perfect. And I do have to apologize because I saw I had inadvertently put a thing on the screen that covered your presentation, but we're going to
Yeah.
go through all of it again. So we're
Okay,
going to
no
do it.
problem. That'll
So
be
we're
cool.
going to start at the top so people understand, which is
Okay. So
now,
then remove that picture there because I think that's the one that
yeah,
has, let me go back.
yep, let me move it. Okay, let me move it from the screen. Now, I need to ask you this. When you say
Mhm.
in various genres, what does that mean for people who don't understand, like we as writers?
So various genres of writing could be poetry is a genre. Then you have prose, which is writing stories. That's a specific genre of writing. Writing songs is very important. That's a specific genre because people don't realize that songs start from poetry. And poetry is really the premise of most things. In fact, most of the books that we create as people of color, and I have to keep specifying that, are poetry books. You could walk down the street in New York City and somebody's trying to sell you a book of poems because they
Yes,
think
they
it's
are.
easy to
Yes,
write.
they are.
They
Yes.
think that it's so easy to write that they're trying to sell you this book of poetry, not realizing that writing poetry is a life's work. Like, that is not easy. That is very, very difficult if you're really staying true to the parameters of writing poetry. It's not just about rhyming words, it's about the metaphors, the similes, how to use those elements like figurative language, personification, understanding how to bring that writing to life so when people see it, they're like, "Ooh, I really understand," or "I want to be in this scene." And so then you're going to learn that. We're also going to go through unconscious streams of thought. And so
Really?
that's a genre of writing
Because I
where
want
you
go ahead.
go ahead.
Where you ladies first, where you do what?
So when you are just writing what comes to your head, unfiltered, not trying to edit it, whatever comes to your head, good, bad, ugly, and indifferent, we're going to write that because that's a very important part of writing.
The word syntax, what does that mean for people who don't understand? Grammar, we know it's 8 parts of speech: nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, explanations. What does syntax mean for those who may not understand?
So syntax is looking at the structure of the writing, looking at the format of the writing, understanding how things go together in sentence and paragraphs. It's just looking at the complete work. It's we're going to dissect everything that we do. We're going to break it down to the very last compound so that we understand when we're putting a piece of writing together all of the elements that go in to even a sentence, and understanding verb noun agreements, understanding tenses, and knowing not to change a tense within a particular body of work.
Yeah. Like you're talking in the past and then the next sentence you're in the future. It's like, how does
Yeah.
it work?
It's,
Unless you know how to sequence it, you know? And I think that's where you come into like sequencing and figurative language. What do you
mm.
mean?
So sequencing is the order in which you tell a story. And so even though you know how a story begins and how it ends, you don't necessarily have to start at the beginning of the story. You want to start somewhere that grabs somebody's attention so that when they're reading it, they're like, "Oh, so this is what's happening. So let me find out how they even got to this point." And then you can backtrack based on that because you've already hooked them in. So sequencing is we're going to look at a story that's well known and we're going to break it apart, trying to figure out how we would start it at various stages within the story so
You
that
know,
people.
I've seen stories and seen movies where they open at the end, but then go back to show you what led up to how it started in the beginning. That's sequencing, I take it.
Exactly.
All
And then
right.
figurative language is all of the different types of elements, literary elements that you use to bring your writing to life. So personification is one. That is when you're giving life to an inanimate object. And so I'm talking about this glass, but I'm making this glass feel like it's a living, human, breathing thing. It's also looking at metaphors, similes, comparisons. It's also looking at like onomatopoeias, which is like using a word like crash to describe the sound of that word, or
Yeah.
whoosh to describe the sound of that word. Looking at hyperboles, exaggeration in writing, looking at alliteration, where you're using the same letter to start like brown bombshells on the beach. Like, I love alliteration. Like that. I love to just
Like
repeat.
me, I love adjectives. Adjectives
Mhm.
add color and flavor and what.
Yes,
So as it gets say just a woman walking down the street, you could say a voluptuous woman with, I mean, you can add more flavor to it. And then the
exactly.
imagination just conjured up all these images. Now, what's
Exactly.
interesting, you says find your authentic writing style and narrate it in written words. What do you mean? How does one go about that, you think?
So finding your authentic writing style comes out through the subconscious streams of thought exercise because you're writing what you think and you're writing in a way that you express yourself. And everybody has a way of speaking, and most often we write the way that we speak. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. If you're a person who can compel people with your spoken word, then that's perfect. But finding your authentic voice is finding what rings true for you, being able to write from the heart and be vulnerable. And a lot of people now don't want to necessarily write from the heart. A lot of
Much
people,
less be vulnerable.
exactly. A lot of people are using AI, which I don't frown upon. If you want to use that, that's your thing. But AI doesn't have a soul. And so you can tell the difference between something that's written by a human being versus something that's written by a machine. And
I
so
like
coming
that.
from that heart space, really pouring your heart out and knowing how to craft that in something that is shaped in rules and form and format is what we're going to learn
Um,
and
let me
narrate.
go. Yeah, narrate. What now? When you say narrate that, oh, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
For some reason, people sometimes, because they don't know about, I think the most important part, actually, when I wrote my book, I had to actually learn English. I had to learn the 8 parts of speech, the tense, I mean, a lot of things. So numerology taught me a whole lot, which is how my book came into existence. And people think they write like they talk. Talking and writing is two different
Two
styles. Can you
different things.
explain that?
So it's interesting that you say that because I have a way of writing that lets me know that in a past life I was a writer because I write in Old English. I write using old language like amongst and things like that. So my editor was like, Jacquie, we no longer use these words. But I'm like, I use them. Like, how do you mean we no longer use like
And
this
it
is the
is
way that I
okay,
write.
too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, this is the way that I write. So when you are writing, if because we speak with so much slang and because we abbreviate things and now we're texting things, we tend to lose grasp on the English language and how best to convey it. And so you have to be very, very particular in knowing how to compartmentalize the way that you speak and the way that you speak to people of importance if you're writing and the way that you speak to people that you know you on a casual level. And so that is where you differentiate how you write because you want to make sure that everything again syntax, grammar, all of that is in place when you're writing versus when you're speaking to somebody, you can cut corners because nobody's going to call you out unless you're my mom who's the eight of diamonds who'll be like, no, that is not the right verb. You didn't say that was you said it. I am not going to post it. Like, she will correct you in a sentence like, okay, I get it. I get it. I was wrong. But
But that's the beauty
most
of
of us
having a
don't.
proper education to
Yes.
guide you in doing things like that.
Hmm.
Now, the second phase of the writing system, tell us about this. Learn how to format your manuscript and complete the book. What do you mean, MS bookworms?
So Microsoft Word is a program that is so robust and a lot of people don't know how to use it properly. A lot of people don't even know how to tab correctly in Microsoft Word.
I'm
Okay,
one of them.
you use the space bar right?
I do the best I
Five
can.
times.
Okay? I do the best I
Yes, so Microsoft Word is what I use to format my book. Even my second one, Numbers Decoded, Cards Unfolded, even though it looks like it has a lot of graphics in it, I use
Yeah.
Microsoft Word. And
Wow.
so I have
Wow.
secrets in terms of how I did that. I'm not going to share it on this
No, they
live.
got to come to the workshop
Yeah,
for
they got
that.
to come. They got to register
Yeah,
and
they got
come.
to come to the workshop.
But Microsoft Word, what I use to format the books. Your manuscript has to be formatted differently from the way that it's submitted when you're going to publish it. Manuscripts are double spaced, and the text is very like Arial or something that's really old school. It's nothing fancy. No serif fonts, and serif means it has that fancy curl at the end of it. And so you can't submit a manuscript that's fancily done. It has to be very bare bones, no
And it can't
formatting
always be
whatsoever.
single space. It's got to be double space. So
It has to
the
be double
editors can
spaced.
make notations or whatever the case is. That I learned the hard way.
Hmm. And so
Definitely.
that's separate from when you want to do self-publishing and you want it to make it, you want to make it fancy. You want to be aware of the margins and you want to format it for the size of the book that you're creating because the books have different sizes, 5 by 7, 6 by 8, 6 by 9. However you want to format the book with the dimensions, you have to have specific margins, knowing the headers, the footers, the page numbers, how to separate the even page numbers from the odd page numbers. It's a lot that goes into it. And then how to remove page numbers from books if you're doing a Microsoft Word and then putting it into Adobe so that you can remove those things easily. It's a lot that goes into the
Yeah, I
formatting.
heard of him. I heard of Adobe. I says, who he
Mhm.
sounds like a nice guy.
Adobe is my friend. I love Adobe.
Well, let me say this before we continue on. For those of you fledgling writers or want to be writers, please put your questions in the comments. We might get to a birthday, but don't can't hold us to that. I'm really focusing about so many people that I meet I want to write a book, and I could write a book. And how do I write a book? And in fact, I've been approached about no less than 3 or 4 times this year already
About
about
writing
how
a
to
book?
write a book. Okay.
Mm.
So I think that this is very, very important for those out there, viewers, just want to do that, to ask you those questions. How do they get started and things of that nature? But before we go on now, shortcuts to make your work seamless. What do you mean?
Oh, keyboard shortcuts like Command C, Command V, or Control C, Control V in your computer. Also, knowing where the format the menus are, so you can just go and just keep things saved so that you can recall them easily, as opposed to having to do all of the processes each time. Like Microsoft Word allows you to automate your movement so that you can just make things easily.
See, I didn't know that. I know I copy, paste, highlight, bold, underscore, fonts. That's about it. And you can't tell me I'm not cooking. Okay.
Listen, as long as you get the job done, when we're looking at the piece of paper, we can't see that you pressed the space bar 5 times.
No,
So it
and I ain't
doesn't
telling nobody either. Okay. So now save the writing styles for quick formats. What do you mean when you say use contextual menus?
contextual menus when you right click. When you right click in Microsoft Word, it has a contextual menu that comes up.
That's what that's called?
Mm-hmm.
I do that all the time. To check
Mm-hmm.
thesaurus, synonyms. That's
Mm-hmm.
what that's called?
Exactly. When you get the synonyms and everything like that, the
I think I'm
thesaurus.
gonna have to sign up for the course. Even though I wrote
Mhm.
books, I'm gonna have to sign up. I can tell. I ain't gonna front. Use industry standards for submission. Like I know
Yeah,
you mentioned double space.
that's what
What
we were
are
just speaking
other,
about.
yeah, are there any other standards? Because, for example, when you measure a manuscript, people think you got to send a whole book in. You don't. You
Mm-mm.
send a couple of pages or a chapter, which you think represents.
Well,
Is
let's
that how it is?
differentiate. Let's differentiate because if you're doing fiction, you got to send the whole book in. Yes, you do.
Interesting.
If you're
Interesting.
writing a book, a work of fiction, you have to send the completed manuscripts. And if you're a new writer, you cannot exceed 100,000 words. I was like they call, I have Logorrhea where I could speak and write a lot. Like when I get on that computer, I just start typing. I had 140,000 words and I had to bring it down. My editor was like, your book is dope, but you have too many words. You're going to have to cut some stuff out.
Yeah.
And I had to make the decision, do I want to go down the traditionally published route or do I want to self-publish? Because there were things in my book that I needed to stay true to.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to remove the numerology piece, even though he was like, it's too confusing, just take it out. Nobody's going to understand it. And at first, when he said that, it was right because I had written a chapter that went into the mechanics of numerology as if I was teaching it, and it broke the flow of the story. And so I had to find a new and creative way of presenting the numbers, which is why I came up with the spiritual forensic report to keep it concise and really short and really get to the meat of why everything was going on in the story because I
And
knew
you
I
did
wasn't
that
taking it out.
perfectly. And you did
Thank
that
you.
perfectly in your first book, Knocking from the Inside, that we'll show them later.
Right. So
Now,
as I was saying, the fiction, you have to submit the complete manuscript. If you're going to do something that's nonfiction, like a self-help or self-improvement or even a history book, you can include what they call a proposal, where you have a synopsis of what each of the chapters will be, and then the introduction and also a sample chapter. You can submit that. And then once they approve the proposal, then you can go ahead and write the full work. So it depends on the genre of writing.
the next phase of this is about the PowerPoint. Now, this is one of my weak points. So, what do you mean learn how to create dynamic presentations? I'll explain later on when we finish the whole part. But creating dynamic presentations, what do you mean?
So presentations are not supposed to be word heavy. Like if you're going to do something with a lot of words, you might use Microsoft Word. PowerPoint is supposed to include a lot of imagery and very few words that bring out the context of what you're saying because the idea is if you're presenting, you should know your content well enough so that you can just speak to it without having to rely on the notes or the words on the slide. And so when I teach PowerPoint, I'm going to teach you how to use the complete space to fill it up with images, smart art, shapes, things that bring the content to life without it being too heavily worded.
What do you mean smart art? What is that?
So, smart art is a feature in Microsoft Word and in PowerPoint that allows you to have different shapes or different call outs things that kind of like have bullet points that you can show people, but it's done in
Oh,
a very sexy way. It's hard to
those are
describe.
call
One
outs.
of the
You call those
features
call
in
outs. You call those call outs. That's what.
call outs, because the way that it's shaped, it could be in the shape of a pyramid, it could be in the shape of a star, but it will have specific lines that allow you to bullet point specific topics or things that you want to focus on. And so using smart art, even using like how I do a lot of animation where things move in my PowerPoint presentations, like I have the car driving on the road, like I built that from scratch with the road and the arrow and the car moving to the different locations. Like, yeah, I did that all from scratch.
I'm impressed. And this is animate with transitions and animation. What do
Transitions.
you mean?
So when I just showed the presentation and the curtains opened up, that's a
Yes.
transition. It's a transition. And then animation is knowing how to add animations to your bullet points so that certain things fly in at a time, other things fly out at specific times, or just knowing how you want the timing of the things to happen on your slide. And then you can automate it so that you can set it so that it does it automatically without you having to click the mouse for things to go from one thing to the next. And that's very tedious and time consuming because you always have to think about the sequencing again of the events on the slide. So,
So you really got to focus too.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that final phase to it is, where are we?
Yep, you're right.
Did it show up on the screen? There we go. Now,
Yes.
how to present it like a pro, preparing your book for publishing. Let's start with that.
Mm-hmm. So, book publishing is a very arduous task, especially if you're going to go down the traditionally published route. And writing a query letter is no joke. It is one of the hardest things that I've ever had to write. If you don't know what a query letter is, it is the letter that you write when you are looking for an agent. And so it cannot be too long. It has to be less than 500 words, but it needs to get to the meat of what your book is about. It needs to be
Right.
captivating. So technically, it's like the blurb on the back of the book without it being the blurb on the back of the book.
In other words, it's got to be tight and to the point.
Tight and to the point, and you have to let them know like it's this book is like a Wakanda meets Coming to America, so they can look at it and say, well, oh, okay, so I understand what Wakanda Forever is about and what Coming to America. But I couldn't do that in my book because my book was never ever written. Like nothing like it exists, and so I couldn't even find a comparison to say, well, it's like this and it's like that because there was nothing to compare it to. And so when I kept sending it to agents, they were like, I don't know how to sell this. I don't know how to sell it. Like it's well written, but I don't know how to sell it. So I was like, you know what? It's not for you. I'm not going to do the traditionally published route. I'm just going to do it myself. So writing a query letter is what we're going to focus on, but also knowing how to go down a self-published route, how to get an ISBN number, how to
Yeah, I
publish
had
on
to go through that. I had to go through that.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot
How to
of
go
things.
through the various
Copyright.
formats. If you're doing it
Yes.
on Amazon, if you're doing it through 48-hour books, which is what I use, or if you're doing it through Ingram Spark, which you need to if you want other people to be able to order your book through Barnes and Noble and all those other bookstores, and then copywriting it with the Library of Congress is important as well. A lot of
Now,
people don't do that.
when you have selecting publishing companies, I forgot there used to be a book, a LP something, literary publishers something.
Mm,
Got all the publishers. So if you're writing sci-fi, these are the publishers
hmm
that publish. If you're writing love stories, if you're writing documentary types of scenarios, is I would imagine that's about selecting publishers because people think that you just write something and put it out there, and there's obvious need out of 1, 2, 3 situation.
Well, when I was saying selecting publishers, I was thinking more of the self-published route. So if you want to publish through Lulu, if you want to publish through Ingram Spark, if you want to publish through Amazon, Barnes and Noble, there are different types of ways and different formatting that goes through them. If you're going to do traditionally published, then it's really about you finding the right agent
In
and
other
getting.
words, you recommending finding an agent first.
You have to. You can't do anything now without an agent. You're not. No publishing company is going to allow you to come in with your manuscript and say, "Can you please publish my book?" It has to go through an agent. And so when
Boy,
you write that
things have
query letter, you
changed
have to send
ever
it
so
to
quick.
the agent, and that agent will sell it to the publisher on your behalf. But that agent is also getting a percentage of your manuscript sales, and they're also editing your book with you. which is
Things
something that
have
I didn't
changed
want.
since I published my first book.
I
I
told
mean,
you, it's a
things
very
have,
different process. It's very complicated now. Things
and
are very different when you were doing it.
even royalty statements. A lot of times now they will publish a book but don't want to give you royalties.
They
I
will
mean,
publish a book and don't want to give you an advance. I know a young lady who got her book published. Her advance was $5. I mean, the good part of that is whatever she makes is hers in terms of whatever sales she makes thereafter is hers because she doesn't have to pay anything back. But still, that's crazy.
but I remember in my case when I was approached with Valentine, they gave me a figure. They gave me half of it in advance that allowed me to free me up so I could work and not deal with things like rent and food and other stuff like
Exactly.
that. And then
Exactly.
the other part, only once everything was completed and submitted and approved did I get the balance.
That's how they do it now. They break it up into 4 increments. So they give you a quarter up front, a quarter the next period, the next quarter, and a quarter at the end.
Mine was 50-50 at that time,
That's
half
great. That's a
complete,
beautiful thing.
then the balance upon it. So things have really changed in this game. So I now understand why the birth of self-publishing is so popular now.
Mm-hmm.
Gives
Mm-hmm.
people options. It definitely gives them
Mm-hmm.
options. Let me ask you this too about the why is it so important about the copyright and how does one go about finding an agent and navigating the world of publishing since things have changed so dramatically, Jacquie?
Well, finding an agent we spoke about, but copywriting your book through the Library of Congress is important so people can't plagiarize your work. So people think that because you have it published and it's up on Amazon that it's copywritten, and technically they say once it's published it is copywritten, but it's not registered with the Congress, so you can't sue. And so it has to be registered with the Library of Congress if you want to take legal action against anybody who uses your work without your permission.
Does this go for audiobooks too?
That's a good question. I have to check. I don't want to say yes or no because I don't remember seeing that as one of the forms of submission the last time I did it, which was a few months ago. But
Mm-hmm.
but I have to check that. I'm
And
pretty sure it would.
now people don't know about the ISBN numbers and why those are so important. But in
Yeah.
fact, when I went, they sent me a whole list of ISBN numbers that I could pick from
Oh,
to do
nice.
my book. That was then at that time.
Yeah, you got to
So
buy that whole list. You got to buy a whole list. You could buy one for $250.
really,
Or you could buy 10, which is what I did. I bought 10 because it's less money for 10. And I knew that I was going to write more books. And so I said, let me just have these 10 sitting here whenever I do it. And you have to have an ISBN number for the various formats too. So if you're going
yeah,
to publish in hardcover, soft cover, and audiobook, that's 3 separate ISBNs unless you're doing a digital book in Amazon. They don't use the ISBN. They have their own formatting, but
things
but
have
Barnes and Noble,
really
you have to use an
changed.
ISBN number.
Things I didn't pay anything. I just submitted a request and I got some ISBN numbers. I didn't have to pay a penny.
look how lucky you were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I had to do everything myself, though. I didn't know about distribution. See, because you can have all the books in the world and publish them. You can have 100 books in your living room, but if you don't have no outlets, so then I've learned how that you had to pay distributors. They normally required about 60% because then they had to share with the bookstores that's going to sell it. It was a whole lot that I had to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Right now, as an author, it's best for you to sell your books yourself because no matter who you partner with, they're going to have to get a cut of whatever it is that you're doing. And book sales are not that great to begin with in terms of the money that you get back because you have to pay to make the book. And so hopefully your book doesn't cost too much to make so you can get a profit. But if you're going to sell it through somebody else, like if I go to a bookstore and say, I want you to sell my first book, they're ordering it through Ingram Spark, who then publishes it and gives me a percentage. So I get about $3 per book that they sell after all of that is done with royalties on one book.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a waste of time when you can just sell it yourself directly to consumer.
Yeah, that's it. It makes a big, big difference. So let me
Mm.
show people about your very first book, Knocking from the Inside. Tell us all about it. And in
So
fact, this book should be made into a movie or a TV something. Gotta be seriously.
thank you, Lord. I would love that if it was a TV series because it's definitely formatted that way with the personal years, each thing happening each year. But Knocking from the Inside is a memoir. It's based on my life. Everything in this book is true. Nothing is fabricated, nothing is embellished, nothing is made up. The only thing that's different are the names have been changed to protect the innocent and the guilty, particularly the guilty, because the innocents didn't have any problem with me using their real name. But when I wanted to use the guilty, they were like, Jacquii gonna come and sue your ass, so you better leave his name out that book. And I was like, all right, all
I
right, all
know
right.
that's like don't know me, okay?
Exactly, because I was going to put his real government name in the book, and they were like, "Nah." They were like, "What's his life path number?" I was like, 7. All right, call him 7. I was like, you know what? I'll call him
Yeah,
Siete.
seven's like to
Make
stay
it
under the
sexy.
radar. So that
I'll call him Siete to make it sexy. But it's based on my life and a very tumultuous relationship that I was in that brought me closer to myself, brought me closer to my spirituality. And what's important about it is that it focuses on the numbers, because I needed to understand why these things were happening, why I was in a phase of my life where I didn't want to be around a lot of people, why spirituality was so important. I was in a 7 pinnacle cycle with a 3 challenge. So I had to learn how to use these trials and tribulations and troubles and really get closer to spirit, get closer to my spiritual gifts. And it opened up my sight, my ability to see, because certain things happen and spirit shows me exactly what happens in the sequence and order of things, but I had to be tapped in. And so we pretty much made a contract that he would come into my life to create these scenarios to push me closer to my spirituality. And sometimes we think that we're the victim, but these are contractual agreements that we make with people that we're living out. And so I don't have any malice or resentment toward him for anything that has gone through, because one, I was a willing participant. It was very fun when it was going on. It wasn't fun when ish hit the fan, but it was fun when all the drama was going on.
that's how it always works.
Right?
Okay.
Exactly. You love the excitement, but when it's on you now, you like, you
But
did
you
me
know
wrong.
what? Actually, part of that may have been the fact that this is why this book came into existence in the first place.
Yeah,
It may not have happened unless that those episodes happen. But how
exactly.
did you decide to use you when you did the numbers? You were in a 1 year, a 7 year, a 8 year, whatever, and you. I mean, it's such a great read. I mean, really, and it's in hardcover and soft
So
cover. It's still available on, I think, Amazon, or do they go directly through you?
they can buy it from me if they want the fancy one that has all of the nice textures. You know, my books have special
Yeah, I
textures.
love
This,
texture on it. Yeah, I got mine. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
this one has that kind of sand texture. You can get it from me for the special textures, but if you want it now in plain, you can just get it directly from Amazon. Or if you want the digital, because I like my books on Kindle, you can get it from Amazon. But what made me do that is because I knew people were going to ask, why did you choose to write it over a 9-year period? And I wanted to show them that the personal years really make a big difference in terms of dictating the events that will happen in our lives. And it was so uncanny to see how everything played out, and it mapped perfectly to what the personal year vibration was.
I do trying to tell people they don't believe me. I'm glad you were able to document it,
Yeah.
because it
Erica is
makes
not an audible yet. Erica asked a question. It's not an audible yet. I was supposed to do the audio book, but as a 13-4 pinnacle, I have to do everything myself. So yeah, you can go onto Clubhouse and listen to me read it out loud.
yeah, but I tell you this, when you're ready, I've got the perfect person for you, because they did mine and hooked me up perfectly. Now, tell me about this one, your latest baby.
Yes. Numbers Decoded, Cards Unfolded. So Numbers Decoded, Cards Unfolded is a book that you probably willed into existence, along with a mother and daughter that I met when I was in a restaurant writing my query letter for my first book. And I asked them to read the query letter to see if it was ready to be sent out to an agent. And they were like, wow, based on this book, you need to write a book that shows people how to do the numerology. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But I never even really gave it much attention until you kept telling me I need to write a book. And so Numbers Decoded, Cards Unfolded is a book that teaches you how to do numerology and cardology, but it's based on the lessons that I teach my students in the classes that we teach. And so it's
I
very
don't think there's
hands-on.
ever
It's
been a
very
book. I don't think there's ever been a book where you combine both numerology and cardology, is it? Not that I know of.
never. This is the first of that kind. But it breaks things down And people are like, but the cardology doesn't go into much depth as numerology. Cardology is a beast. And in order
Yeah,
for me
yeah.
to put in the grand solar spreads, that was pages that had to be used. And again, as a self-published author, pages are dollars. And so the more pages you put in a book, the more money you're going to spend to make that book.
And
Okay.
more
So
so
I had
cost the buyers to get it. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's what it is. But this is an excellent book. I tell you, I bought about 3 or 4 of these books already.
You
Give it
did.
2 I have just for me. One book, because when I went to see Jacquie to buy the book, her mother wrapped it so neatly. I didn't even want to unfold it. I said, Jacquie, I want to buy another book. I mean, Cynthia just put the love on that thing, boy. That I
She
and I
did. She took her time and she wrapped it
and
like it
she
was
said
a
right on
special
the
going
couch,
away
so neat.
gift.
She was just holding it so neat. I said, I ain't gonna undo that girl's work. I ain't gonna hardly do that. Let me buy another book, okay? And you know what? I still got it wrapped in the original thing right to this day, and it will be that way forever. You know what I'm saying?
That's
But
great. Thank
she
you.
did so much. I mean, you got such a beautiful mother. So I can see, that's why they say the fruit don't fall too far from the
Far from the
tree.
tree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And look
Mm-hmm.
at Cynthia. That she is really nice. She is
Yes,
really
it
nice with her
is.
real self. Bless her soul. Um, and I want to let people know also because of this. Let me tell you this. My online course is on sale. Now I'm saying this for a reason. Where is it? Okay. Where is it? How come it's not showing up? The reason why my course is online, there we go, is if you look at it, out of my 3 Learn from Lloyd series, 2 of them are bestsellers. Well, let me tell you this. Jacquie Leviene, my guest, is the one that designed my courses. And I do believe that's why, yes, I provide the content, but to put the graphics together, the animations and other things that she just talked to you about, I bear witness that y'all need to take this writing course because now my course going into next month will make 2 years that I started it. Started in February of 2020 while I started this show 2 years ago. But the point is that, and Jacquie, I checked this morning, and I got to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, I'm going to give you credit.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the way you design my courses, I now have over 6,078 students in 93 countries,
Look at that.
translated into 30 languages. So I'm telling you, this is the go-to person right here. So y'all better get her information when we finish this. And by the way, and another thing, so and by the way, today is the last day this course is on sale for this kind of money. And I like it because it's talking my numbers, which is a 7. Okay. They all at the 25, 25, 25, which I think is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then again, if you want to see something else, this is what she did for my
Website.
website.
Yeah.
Now, you can see it on the phone. It's called astar8.com. But I want you to see it on a computer, the way she graphically put this together. Now, I had to pay for this. Jackie's my girl, but she's business. She's a Taurus, okay? Like Lloyd, I know how you feel and all that stuff, but let me tell you, it was worth every penny I paid her. And I paid her what her fee was.
Thank
I didn't
you.
try to say, well, you know me, you're gonna be on my show. Why don't we? And it's always when we see each other, it's always give me, can you spare? I did
Mm.
not insult her like that.
Mm.
I'm saying that she put this together for me. If you look at the the animation of it, of how she did it, the presentation. When I showed my brother this, he says, "Wow, Lloyd, that's fire." That was the term he used.
That's right. Ow. Maya.
And I mean,
Let me say New York.
so I'm here to bear witness not only about this writing course, but I'm trying to tell you what she did for me when she designed my Learn from Lloyd series online courses. And then she and I did jointly the third one, Learn from Lloyd, the do's and don'ts of numerology, which is
Mm-hmm.
also beginning to pick up the momentum. It's the new kid on the block, but it's beginning to pick up its own momentum. And the way it's designed in each phase of these series is designed totally differently.
Yeah.
So I know when I look at it, I know what I'm looking at: phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3. And so all I'm saying is I'm just telling you she is worth every penny. And I don't please don't insult yourself by trying to play it cheap. She has a fee, pay her, but we need to learn how to invest in ourselves. You get what you pay for. And as you see the results of mine, over 6,000 students in 2 years, okay? Forgive me if I'm not impressed with her work. And I'm saying that should be what you all need to think about too. If you want that kind of results, then you need to reach this person right here and invest
Mm-hmm.
that kind of in yourself. But it's worth it. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
tax deductible too. Okay. It's a whole lot of ways, but you must pay her. It doesn't come cheap. You know what I'm saying? You don't go get no Louis Vuitton on a break. No, not unless you go get a
Hmm.
knockoff on 34th Street or something like that. But if you want the real deal, this is the person to go to. So I bear witness with that. And I want to let
Thank
people
you.
know, let you know, Jacquie, that as of today, over 6,000 students around the world
That is
because of
fire.
your format,
That is
93 countries, and over 30 languages. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And by the way, she also designed King Simon's. This considered a bestseller on
fire.
Udemy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling you, the proof is in the pudding. And no, she didn't pay me to do this. No, I'm just saying from the heart, you got to understand. And we need to be supportive of each other. It's like, oh, she can't, and we go spend our money elsewhere. No, go spend within. She has all the skill sets, which is why they hired her in the first place when she was in the workforce because of her
Mm-hmm.
expertise. So what I'm saying is you need to take a page from that and go and invest in yourself. Now, if you're going to play yourself cheap, she's not the one to contact. So please don't get your feelings hurt. I'm just telling you right now. Let me show the banner so people will know how to get in touch with Jacquie. And she is an astronaut. And by the way, she's an excellent singer.
Thank you.
She's an author. She's a magnificent woman, and she's got the best mom on the planet. Her mother is so sweet, but she's a tough cookie. I can tell.
Pay the diamonds. Mm. Yes, so you can contact me, jazzaphrodite.com. And I do the one-to-one sessions still. Yes, there was a question I think Zany asked. I do one-to-one mentorships. So everything is on my website, jazzaphrodite.com. That's where you can go to sign up for the classes. The writer's workout starts next week, Wednesday, and all the other classes follow that one. So if you want to take all four, you can, but you can pick and choose. You can take 1, 2, 3, however the money flows and however your interest goes is fine. You can sign up for as your leisure, but my website has it all. So you can contact me. You can reach out and DM me, leave me a voicemail on the website, and I'll respond to you.
Question:
Everything.
when does the next writers workshop begin?
So this one starts June 14th, next week, Wednesday.
Okay, good. I'm glad we asked because I don't think that was brought up. So for those
Yeah.
of you who would like to get into the writing class, and I call it, well, she has it here that I wrote down, the Complete Writer's Essential Series. I think I'm going to join that course. Even though I've written 6 books, you can always learn. And
You
in
have
fact,
time, Lloyd? Because it's a workout. Each week we're doing something different. We're writing a piece
yeah, but I'm
each
thinking of
week.
writing other books. You
Oh,
see
I
what
hear
I'm
that.
saying?
I love
So I
that.
would like to now bring myself to the 21st century.
I
Okay.
love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I also took her online numerology course. And although I've been doing this for decades, it was nice to learn something. That's why I have such high regard and speak so highly of this sister. Okay.
Yes, you did
And I
take it. That
mean,
class was nice too that you
yeah,
came.
yeah. I mean everything, the graphics and everything. And I was taking notes and screenshot. I was all over. You'd have been proud of me. Okay, I learned how to do screenshots because of that. You know what I'm saying? To say this graphic and that. And that's why I supported her by buying a book. And I want all of you who are interested in taking yourself to the next level in publishing a book, creating a website, doing something on an online course like Udemy or others that they got out here. This is the go-to person if you want it polished, if you want it professional, and if you want the results that I've gotten. Believe me, I
Mhm,
wouldn't have got all these thousands of students on something sloppy coming out the gate. It
mm-mm.
just don't work like that.
Your
Trust
ratings would have been crazy.
me.
But let
Yeah.
me just say this too. For those of us in the chat, I know I speak to you all on Mondays when I do the moderation. Please come out and support us in New Orleans in August with the Circle of Cosmic Consciousness retreat, because we will all be there, the 5 of us. We have Diamond. Shout out to Diamond who's in the chat. We have Lloyd. We have Aquarius Maximus, who was very hard to pin down. So if you get Aquarius to commit to
Right?
anything, that's a big thing. You have King Simon, and everybody loved his energy on Monday. And then you have me. And so we're going to be there from the 17th to the 20th. It's important that you guys come out and support this because we teach, we make ourselves available in Clubhouse, on Lloyd's show. We do free readings, but at this stage of the game, we also need to learn how to do these things. That's why we're teaching these skills so that you're able to use it every day and incorporate it into your daily lives. It's not something that we do for fun. This is a way of life. This is how we live.
We love it. We love it too. And you're going to get information that really, rarely will you get to find all 5 of us under one
In the same
roof
place.
time. I mean, you can't, all you got to do is just show up. So make a commitment to that. All right?
And we all have books. So be mindful of that. We all have books, which is why this writer's workout is so important because people need to write, but we need to upgrade the writing and the writing style. No longer can we put books out that have errors in it. A lot of people didn't want to buy my first book because they thought it was going to be one of those ghetto books that was poorly written. And when they read it, they were very surprised at the quality, but that needs to be the standard for us moving forward.
Well, you know what's interesting? When I published my first book, people thought I would publish them in Xerox copies. No, that's exactly how it would sell, just like that. I self-published. I raised money for it, and from people that's good, bad, and in between. And I
You were
published a
16, of
hardcover
course
book.
you did.
Yeah, a hardcover book and a softcover book, and I did it professionally, and people were shocked. But it was well worth it. I spent a lot, but that's how I wanted to do. I wanted to do a professional quality. And in fact, that's how the Valentine publishers picked up on me doing it in the first place, because they looked at the book I published on my own.
Wow.
So had it been Jacquii, I wouldn't have got that opportunity.
So Lloyd, let me ask you, how did you get your book published? Did you contact how did you get your first book published? Did you contact the publisher directly or did they come to you to make it?
No, I published it was Edward Brothers Publishing Company. I never forgot them. I don't know if they still exist.
But how did you get to Valentine then?
Oh, what happened is one of my students was dating the editor. And there was a woman who was writing the book on numerology, but she was giving the publishers a fit. And Terrence Warner, that I donated, I gave him thanks. It was Terrence Warner, one of my former students, my old student, that told her, why don't you talk to my teacher? And he referred, and she called me up, and she's an Aries 4 lady. And it was because of her that she then says, Lloyd, would you like to do the book? I did the book in 87. I told her that the book would sell a lifetime. Then 10 years later, 97, she hired me again to give it an update, which is that orange book behind me on the shelf. And that book has been published ever since. So since 1987, this book has been, it's sold all over the world too. But I thank Terrence Warner because I'm glad he was dating her at the time. Okay.
I was about to say you had the inside connect, but that's usually how it is, right?
Yeah. And only because he said, won't you hire my teacher? And she gave me a call, and that changed my whole life in terms of literary works.
Yeah.
You know,
but I'm glad you went through it that route and didn't have to go through the finding the agent route. But a lot of people who have their books published know somebody on the inside and able to make that connection. But if you don't know someone on the inside, you have to go through the agent.
And that's how I referred her, Cheryl Woodruff is her name. That's how I referred her to Queen of Four, who got her book published. And also Ken Dickerson. So I referred several brothers and sisters that was writing at that time, and she had those books published. And her book, Sacred Woman, has been a bestseller ever since it was published.
Ever since.
Yeah. But that came because she approached me about, you know, other people. I said, yeah, I know this person, this person, this person. And so I've just been on this journey about people. You need to write a book. You need to write a book. And it's just a good testament to see things happen like that. It's great. It's a very good feeling. It's a good feeling. When I saw your book, I says, wow. And I mean, you really kicked it, girl. I use strong language. We're on a public format, but you would put your foot in it, okay, as they say. So let's see. They said they would like a reading if possible. I'll get this one only because she's born on the 20th like you, and today's the 20th, and we're about to wrap it up. Would you like
Oh,
to do that? You,
oh, you're
you.
doing. Oh, I'm doing a reading.
Yeah,
Oh,
just for her. Just that one that she's born on the 20th. She said she would like a reading if possible. So we're gonna grant her wish.
if possible. What's the year? 68.
Yeah,
That's interesting that she's born on the 20th, like myself.
that's why I put that.
So it's you are. Hold up, my computer's acting up. So you Gemini too. It's interesting. So your numbers are the 2, 7, and 5. What I like to do is talk about the pinnacle cycle when I read. And so you are in your last pinnacle cycle, your fourth one, which is saying that you're in a 3 pinnacle cycle. So this year, well, for the next 9 years, actually for the rest of your life, you have to speak your authentic truth. Threes are about speaking from the heart. And so you would be somebody, especially who would be good for this writing class, because not only are you in a 3 pinnacle cycle, you're also in a 5 personal year, a year of change. The 5 is also the number of literary studies, somebody who likes to write. So just understand this year is a year that you have to make a decision. You're at the halfway point and you have to make a decision as to which way you're going to go, with the understanding that the destiny is always going to be the same. The journey, the destination is always the same, but the route that you take will change. And so, understanding to speak from your heart, speak the truth, glass half full as opposed to glass half empty. 3 is all about optimism, expansion, growth. But you have to make sure that you're expanding upon something that is good, something that is stands the test of time. You don't want to expand on negativity. And because you don't have any challenges, the universe is going to throw you so many different things that you have to contend with. You need to be very mindful that you are purposefully choosing what it is that you want to work on. And so, with that 2, 7, and 5, you want to make sure that you are speaking diplomatically. You want to make sure that you're not worrying excessively. You want to make sure that, again, you're not staying up at nights with that 5 energy, with insomnia, with things going in your brain, mulling them over and over, because you have a lot of worry numbers in your chart. And so, speak your mind, get it off your chest, and let it go.
See, that's just another demonstration of this wonderful woman's gifts. Okay. So
Thank you.
I hope that has helped you. And what I'm going to do is that I won't do any more because we're at the 8 o'clock hour. I just want to make a couple of announcements. Then I will be back where Jacquie can have the last word on this. Okay. Let me do this.
Okay.
So everybody, let me explain what's going on with this. First of all, I need to thank Jacquie. And by the way, this show has been sponsored by the Sisters of the Traveling Spread. So please go to stshealing.com. That's stshealing.com. And while you're there, hopefully you can also maybe, who knows, get meet with Jacquie to get a session about signing up for classes, writing your books. But it's going to be such a well-rounded event that we really want you to be there. So please go to stshealing.com, stshealing.com. The time is moving very, very swiftly. So please do that. By the way, and this is Jacquie's first book we want you to get, Knocking from the Inside. It's available through her website, also available through Amazon. But if you go directly through Jacquie at Jazz Aphrodite, which will be displayed on the next illustration, you'll get the classic book. But if you want the book, well, let me tell you, even if you get it from Amazon, it's still going to be classic. But to get it in the original with this texturized feelings, because I love books, as you can obviously tell from my backdrop. Okay, so this is, and so please go to Aphrodite.com to get both books. And this is, I don't think she has too many. How many books you have left, Jacquie?
With the numbers decoded, I have about 15 left.
Okay, yeah, so they're going to go by soon too. And so for those of you, I want to let you know that my classes, Learn from Lloyd series, Learn from Lloyd, How to Read a Person Like a Book, Learn from Lloyd, The Next Step in Numerology, and Learn from Lloyd, the do's and don'ts that Jacquie and I put together. All 3 of these classes are now on sale. All 3 of these classes was designed by Jacquie Leviene herself. I just provided the content. Well, on the third one, she added her input, my input, and that's how we came up. I think we did that in about 2 days, if not mistaken, which was great. And so this
Oops.
is very important.
Lloyd.
So yes, okay. And
Open the
also
link.
sign up for the free monthly newsletter. All righty. For June, all you got to do is go to my website, lloyd-strayhorn.com. Also, I have an audiobook now from Numbers and You. So that's what I'm going to get Jacquie to do next, to put that knocking from the inside with his. I mean, that book is like enticing. They definitely need to make something on Hulu or Netflix about that book. I can see that easily done. I mean, it would keep y'all glued to the TV. So you think all these other series y'all been watching, y'all need to see that. I can see them putting together with the and and in fact, King Simon mentioned some, so maybe his contact will do that. But y'all can all order my audiobook. As you see, it's on a discount. All you got to do is, it doesn't cost $826, folks. That's the code. Okay. So just before you order it, just put the code in, you'll get an automatic discount. Also, for those of you, I have my Numbers and You podcast, so you can also listen to the book. For those of you, also, I'm glad to say now I'm on TikTok, which has been a very interesting thing. But I got a nice surprise, folks. Not only did Jacquie design my website, and I suggested all of you go to a star8.com. That's ASTAR8.com to see how she really embellishes. Seeing it on your phone is one thing, but to see it on the computer, I mean, this thing is, like my brother said, fire. All right. And let me tell you this. I told you about the app. It's available for the Android users, but as of today, on my 7th day, it is now available for the iPhone users. So all you iPhone users has been so patient. I know y'all be saying, man, every time Lloyd come on, he's gonna say it's gonna be out soon, it's gonna be out soon. Well, it's now out. So please, and you, what you got to do is just go to uh, a star8.com app, and you'll see you have an option to pick on Google if you are Android user, and Apple if you are an Apple user, and download them. They are now ready for your, and I'd like to get some feedback. This is how it looks on Apple. This is how it looks on that display. So, and I saw it myself and I downloaded it. And let me tell you, it's a very nice thing. So I want to thank everybody who were very patient. And so for the iPhone users, definitely, the Android users, definitely. And it was Jacquie Leviene that designed this. And I will do this till the cows come home, because it's just a superb job, professional. And as I said, she is worth every penny. If you want something cheap, don't go see Jacquie. Okay. Just, this way you don't get your feelings hurt. Just, y'all go somewhere else. That's what y'all do. So anyway, before I do that, Jacquie, would you like to have the last word before we call this evening?
Thank you. So I want to say I love you all. You guys have been very supportive of us throughout the years now that we've been doing this work, and you come diligently every Monday and Wednesday. I see so many familiar names and faces in the chat, and I am just very appreciative of all the support that you give us. Without you, there would be no us. And I'm appreciative to you, Lloyd, because you give us all the platform to share our gifts and to expand. Without you, we wouldn't even be here. So I hope that we all can join together in New Orleans. Check out Black Magic 363 tonight at 9 o'clock. Aquarius Maximus is on there tonight, so
Very
support our
good.
sister.
Very
And,
good.
and she will be talking about the conference as well. So see us in New Orleans in August. The website is stshealing.com. But in the meantime, if you can afford it and if you have the time and the talents, even if they are nascent, new, and you want to develop them, join the workshop that starts June 14th, the 7-week writers workout, where we will be exercising and stretching our muscles, our writing muscles, to be the literary giants that we are. And it's going to be a very vulnerable and happy class. So just come through and just express ourselves. But again, thank you for your support, and thank you for just being here with us as we go through our journeys and expand on our own paths.
And I got to say personally to this beautiful lady, Jacquie, thank you for moderating each Monday. For those of you who visit the room, you know she don't play.
I don't.
You tell you, y'all got to get up out of here. Y'all don't be coming up here with no nonsense. That's just why Jacquie is moderating on Monday. Okay. And Empress Rel is no joke on Wednesday. Okay.
Empress Rel is sweet. She's a sweeter version to me. I'm like, listen, if you lurking, you could leave. Bounce. That's exactly how I say bounce. So if you want to understand the lingo that goes behind the words, that's how I mean it.
No, you don't play. Because see, I don't get to see the comments until the show is over or until it's aired on YouTube. See, evidently y'all can see what's coming in. I can't. And so when I go to the comments and I can't focus on comments and try to look at the screen and all that other stuff, it's a distraction for me. So I don't multitask like that. But I know when I do look at it after the show ends, and some of the things you say, you get them straight, Jack. I'm so proud of you. Okay. That's all I can say. I'm very proud of you. You don't play.
I didn't know it was coming from a loving place, but we got to regulate. But thank you all. I love you all. And y'all make me laugh every Monday. Crack me up. So thank you.
Jacquie, thank you so much. This
Thank
has
you,
been a
Lloyd.
pleasure. Please tell Cynthia, your mom, I said hello, love her much with her Leo self. All righty. So all of y'all take good care. Y'all all have a very, very nice weekend. And this is one of, well, I say all my shows are favorite. This is one of my favorites too, especially with King Simon with his crazy self. But I do thank you very, very much. And again, let me just say this for you, to all the people that have been very patient. Please go to the website, star8.com. And as you see, as soon as you get to the landing page, you have an option to click for the Android users. And now you have an option as of today to click for the iPhone users. So I want all the iPhone users been so patient to now download it. You can download it right now. Tell all your friends, tell all your family associates, and let them know that it is available. And it is something that I'm very proud of. In the meantime, I'm also thanking all of you too who visits each and every week, the Williams family in Chicago, Westbrooks, to keep me on point, and a lot of other people that's too long to give credit to. But many of you, I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. All of you, in the meantime, have a nice day and a great, great weekend.